and welcome back to the Spicy Sports Hour with Sam Zorn, coming to you live from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So that's a first. A lot to talk about in the world of sports. Honestly, I am glad the calendar has turned over to September because college football is back. Like I say, like the old ball coach Steve Spurrier. Football. And college football, some great games last night, great games going on right now. NFL starts next week, and of course, Tom Brady is going to be playing. It looks like everything was overturned, so Tom Brady is playing. No surprise for me there. I'm not going to discuss Tom Brady too much because, let's be honest here, it's probably a waste of my time, and a waste of most people's times. So, again, I'm pretty happy to be back. I haven't done a podcast in about a month, probably. Half of it's because I've been at home for 2 weeks, and I don't do podcasts really when I'm at home. And I just, the last couple of road trips that I've been on, it just, there's not a lot to talk about in August, really. It's preseason, so realistically speaking, it's not, there aren't a lot of storylines, really. There were a couple that you find in here or there, quarterback competitions. Settling. Buffalo has a starting quarterback now. Tyrod Taylor, the fifth-year quarterback out of Virginia Tech, is going to be the QB for this season, beating out E.J. Manuel and Matt Castle. So that should be pretty exciting. In terms of what I think for Buffalo for the season, I think that is probably the best option to go with right now in terms of what Tyrod Taylor brings. For those that saw him last play, again, he's going to play a full season, assuming he stays healthy. The last time he did play a full season was back in college at Virginia Tech. He was really good in terms of his running. He's sat for 4 years behind Joe Flacco in Baltimore, so I think that's going to help. And the last quarterback that really sat a long time and got a starting gig and has a lot of potential here in terms of his mobility and in terms to be accurate, the guy's name is Aaron Rodgers. Sat for 4 years under this guy named Brett Favre, and he turned out to be okay. I don't know if this Aaron Rodgers guy, what he's doing now, but I think he turned out okay. But I'm not saying Tyrod Taylor is going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think that there are some similarities there that could point in a good sign for Buffalo. Of course, again, Tom Brady is going to be playing Week 1. He's going to play in the opener, so no shocker there for me. Again, now that is finally settled, it's a good thing because now we know for sure Tom Brady's going to play a full 16 games. Without a doubt, for me, I think that New England is the favorite. No question about it now in the AFC East. So again, NFL will be in the second block here. Before we start, actually, just watched a video of the Maryland Terrapins taking on UCLA in college soccer. Now, of course, college soccer isn't as publicized as you would see maybe college football or NFL. But college soccer is pretty impressive in terms of the talent pool that you get. And again, being from Maryland, I like to watch the Terrapins play. Just saw on Facebook the overtime winning goal here for the Maryland Terrapins, winning 2-1. Maryland is ranked number 6, UCLA number 1 in the country. And again, 2 top 10 programs always in the NCAA tournament year in, year out, always have a stock full of talent. And of course, Maryland winning 2-1. You should check out that overtime goal on Facebook or on the Maryland Terrapins Facebook page. Now, without further ado, college football, again, it is an exciting time just because, again, quarterback competitions are settled at this point for most teams. And again, there have been some top 10 teams playing the last couple of days. It opened last night with North Carolina and South Carolina. South Carolina coming on top 17-13. Early on, my thoughts are the fact that these quarterbacks overall in the entire state of college football, I have never seen worse quarterback play just as a whole. For South Carolina, they had Dylan Thompson last season, and, their QB coming in, Connor Mitch, had only thrown 6 passes before last night, and then he gets injured. They bring in this guy, Ortho, the backup, who's more of a runner than a passer. Again, he's probably the reason that they win the game because they move the chains better, running and having different types of running schemes. For North Carolina, their quarterback, Marquise Williams, a guy coming back again. People thought that, okay, this is probably going to be the pick. Most people did pick North Carolina to win strictly because of their strength, potentially, at quarterback. But again, he was just awful. That South Carolina defense was all over him. This was not a good night for Williams. Again, South Carolina going on top 17 to 13. Some scores from last night. Um, Georgia Tech put on a show against Alcorn State, 69 to 6. Georgia Tech is again probably the favorite, along with Clemson, to come out of the ACC. Not a lot of passing, really. I mean, if you look at the passing yards, again, Georgia Tech is not that. They are more of a rushing team, and you could see it again with the final score being 69-6. TCU and Minnesota, that was an interesting game, probably more interesting than people gave it credit for. Minnesota is not a bad team. I think that, in my opinion, Minnesota could have won this game. There was just a couple turnovers and bad quarterback play. That TCU defense, again, a Gary Patterson defense is always going to be a top 10 defense in the country. Not in terms of statistical, in terms of stats, probably. Again, defense in college football isn't as structured as NFL defenses, but TCU's defense had a lot of talent. And on offense, they have Trevon Boykin, the quarterback, who is a potential Heisman Trophy winner. Played pretty well, 26 of 42, 246, and a score throwing, and he did run for 92 yards and a touchdown. So he has a lot of versatility with his arm and with his legs. Again, for Minnesota, I think they played really well. I think they kept toe-to-toe with TCU. So again, this win for TCU, again, all they had to do, it's like the NCAA tournament. Survive and advance. That's how it is in college football. If you lose a game, unless you're the SEC, as I've said time and time again, you're more than likely done, and that's how I've always seen it. Especially for teams that, like the Big 12, like a TCU, like a Baylor, like an Oklahoma, and maybe Texas if they get really lucky with their quarterback play. They don't have a conference championship, unlike the other conferences. So they're going to have to show in their out-of-conference schedule that they can hang with the best. Minnesota, again, I think they're probably a 5th or 6th best team at best in the Big Ten this season. But again, if that's all they have, TCU, going forward, again, that's a quality win if Minnesota could show to be that team and beat some teams in the Big Ten along the way. But again, for me, that first week coming out, a lot of offenses aren't going to show a lot until maybe they get into conference play. Again, I think the TCU offense probably wasn't as great. They weren't as sharp. But again, it's week 1. You don't expect a lot. The other game out of last night was Arizona, Texas, San Antonio. Anu Solomon coming back for his sophomore season, played really well, really efficient. Nick Wilson running for 97 yards on the night. Arizona wins 42-32. Pretty high-scoring game. Again, I don't know a lot about Texas, San Antonio. Arizona is a team that's going to compete out of the Pac-12. 22nd ranked to start the season. They're probably going to be really good. Again, with Solomon coming back for his sophomore season. Some scores from from going on right now tonight. Michigan State, Western Michigan, 37-24, Michigan State. Again, if they're a top 5 team right now, they're probably the second best team in the Big Ten, competing, of course, with the Ohio State Buckeyes. It's a close game, 7:42 left in the fourth quarter. Michigan State just kicked a field goal to go up by that margin. We'll see what happens. Again, 7:42 left in the fourth quarter. Michigan State up 37-24. In the last game, of course, Baylor and SMU, 2 teams out of Texas. Texas football is fantastic. You can catch it up out on ESPN. Baylor's up 56-21. It was a close game early, around halftime. Baylor putting up 28 points in the first quarter, none in the second quarter, which is pretty unheard of for a Baylor offense. Seth Russell playing pretty good. 15 of 30, not great in terms of percentage-wise, but 376 yards, 5 TDs on the day so far. And again, you have 8:09 left in the fourth quarter. It looks like Baylor's going to keep pulling away here. Again, I'm going to give you my top 4 teams that I think they're going to make the playoff later on. But again, this Baylor team is someone to contend with. Both Baylor and TCU last season were left out of the college playoff. Namely, I would say because they didn't have a conference championship game. I think that if that were to be the case, if they were to have a college football, a Big 12 championship game, more than likely the winner of that game would have probably been the 4th seed, and Ohio State, who won the championship last year, would have more than likely been left out. That's just my opinion, but that's how I see. That's why the Big 12 has to go. Whoever wins the Big 12 has to go unbeaten for sure to solidify themselves in a college football playoff spot. Now, before I go with my top 4, I'm going to give you pick'ems for the weekend. Again, strictly top 25 because if I was going to do all 300 plus NCAA games, you guys would lose your mind after the first 10 or 15. So, without further ado, I'm just going to throw on some music here. So let's just get some music going, so that way that we can get started. So, of course, let's get started with the college football pick'em of the weekend. All right, so Saturday, September 5th, tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Again, my computer's set to Pacific. So noon kickoff Eastern, Stanford Northwestern. The line is Stanford with -11. I do like the Stanford Cardinal, 21st in the country to start off the season. Kevin Hogan is back for one more season. I pick Stanford to go over Northwestern. Louisiana Monroe over on Georgia. The line is 35.5. Oof, that's a big line. I would take Louisiana Monroe to cover the spread, but I'm picking, of course, Georgia to win the game. It's going to be interesting because their quarterback was the Georgia's starting quarterback was a transfer from Virginia. Imagine that, someone transferring out of the ACC to become a quarterback in the SEC. It shows you how bad quarterback play is overall, as I mentioned earlier. Again, picking Georgia to win the game easily. Ole Miss, Tennessee Martin, no question about that. Ole Miss beating Tennessee Martin, easy. Clemson, ranked 12th in the country. Again, they're probably the favorite along with Georgia Tech to come out of the ACC. I'm picking them over Wofford. Virginia, UCLA should be interesting. UCLA, again, 13th in the country. They have a new quarterback in Josh Rosen, the heralded freshman. He's probably the biggest quarterback coming out of the state of California, starting as a freshman since Matt Barkley. And I think that UCLA, they have a chance to get to the playoff only if Rosen can perform well. Again, I'll give you my pick later who's going to come out of the Pac-12, but I'm picking UCLA over Virginia. UTEP and Arkansas, no question, Arkansas, easy. The spread is 33. Louisville-Auburn is going to be one of the more interesting games. It's Auburn 10. I think Louisville can cover the spread. Auburn is ranked 6th in the country. I like that Auburn defense, coached by former Florida coach Will Muschamp. Southeast Missouri State over against Missouri. It's going to be a close one out in Columbia. Picking Missouri in a close one. Bowling Green, Tennessee. Tennessee's ranked 25th. They're not bad. Their quarterback play is probably going to be pretty good. And I think I like their weapons at wide receiver. Bowling Green, not much to like there. Tennessee, 21-point favorites. Akron, Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield's now the quarterback at Oklahoma, taking that job from Trevor Knight. Again, if you remember Mayfield, he used to start at Texas Tech a couple years ago, sat out last season, picking them over the Akron Zips. Oklahoma, a 32.5-point favorite. One of the bigger games on the night is Arizona State and Texas A&M. That's going to be huge. Texas A&M is actually a favorite by 3 here. It's down in Houston, so that should be pretty interesting. Arizona State is going to be another team to contend with in the Pac-12. They have their quarterback Berkovici, who finally gets the starting gig. I liked him in his spot start to be last season. I think that he's going to be really good, and I think that Arizona State team, I definitely think they're going to compete. I don't know if they're going to win the Pac-12, but I think they're going to compete. In terms of Texas A&M, I'm not so certain about their quarterback play. Again, they are the favorites.